Hey guys, so Saturday noon or whatever, and I didn't come out yesterday because it was just too hot. Couldn't be bothered. I was going to come out in the evening and do something, but by that point I was feeling way too lazy. So I'm going to see what I can do with the truck today. You know, all this hardware is all set up, so I might as well put the heater box together. Then I think what I'll do is I'll drag a big pail out and start washing off the wiring harness. I'll wring out all the wires as I go along. Probably not going to get this thing started this weekend, but I'm not going to push it just for the sake of meeting a false deadline here. Okay, so I'm working on this, and I have some help. I'll call it help. I'm just going to do this just so I remember what it is. The short cable goes to here, the medium cable goes around and under here, and this longest cable of all goes through here and actually hooks up to that. This is just for my own reference here. And so I'm going to pop this off, just make note of approximately where everything was, and then I'll clean this thing off and put it together. Now I'm trying to figure out something. I already have two of these on the heater core. I seem to have two extras. I don't know if I salvaged some extras just for spares or what. So I'm a little puzzled by that, but I'm not going to be too panicked about it here. Okay, and that's about it. This is, I didn't bother painting this. I'm just gonna wash it off and call that good. Yeah, a little glass cleaner does wonders for cleaning up a piece of plastic. Looks pretty good now. Now I'm going to use it to clean that thing up, and I'm going to blow it off first. It's not going to come up quite so well because there is some rust on this, but I wasn't going to panic about that because it's in a pretty non-visible place. Anyways, I'm going to put this in. I've got the heater core in. Well, what do you call it? I wouldn't actually... Well, yeah, it is the heater core. I guess the heater core and fan box side of it here. And that's looking good. Hopefully I got it the right way around. I don't know if it makes a big difference, but there's a big one and a slightly smaller one. And if it does make a big difference, well, that's the way it's going to be. I'll just have some hoses crossing over because I'm not pulling that out and switching that around. It's a pretty tight fit back there. It really should have been on before the fender went on, or at least before the hinge went on. So, one thing I'll recommend is if you're putting this stuff back, you get yourself one of these kits. It's actually quite handy. It comes with all the gaskets you're going to need. Even though this one was salvageable, I'm going to use the new one, which is kind of a spongy foam. This piece I'm not going to use. The old one looked good. It's for the it goes in here where the heater deflector or the defrost deflector goes, and that was stapled on, and quite frankly, it looked fine to me. I may be retracting my previous statement. This piece of foam doesn't resemble the old gasket very well. It doesn't seem right. It's messed up around there. And there, it's almost too small. Now this illustration is of the non-AC, you know, heater box right there. But I don't know. This doesn't seem right. I'm going to use the old one. Hell with it. It's in plenty good shape. It looks a little rough, but the reality is it's still flexible. It's not torn. It's not cracking. So I'll use this one since it fits perfectly into that. A little annoyed about that. Hey guys, so unusual problems are healthy for the mind. I got an unusual problem that I kind of thought might be a problem, but I kind of hoped that it would work itself out. Heater controls. Now the heater controls are fine. This one will be the one that's going to go in the truck. Got two other ones that I dragged out just to have a look at. Here it is. The van used a separate switch for controlling the fan speed, and if I'm going to use the wiring harness from the van, I kind of got to be electrically compatible with this switch. But these guys didn't use the same configuration. Matter of fact, what they used was the air. You can control how much air was coming in, but at the same time, that was what was controlling the switch here. That was the fan control. No big problem, you'd figure. But then I broke down what the electrical outputs are, and they're not quite compatible between the two switches. What's being electrically active and what's not. So I'm going to have to be a little bit more clever here. The thought was, you know, if that was going to be a problem, I could figure out some way to adapt the switch to be activated the same way as this. But I think I might have a little bit more clever solution. Now theoretically, I could put a 4-position, 4-pole switch and just have, you know, it logically come out in my little logic diagram here. But I think there's a little bit more sophisticated way of doing it. I haven't done it for 22 years, but I might be able to apply some of my logic circuit simplification skills that came from my university days. So we'll see how that goes. But for the meantime, I'm going to put that in, but I won't put those little clips on that that retain them, just in case I have to pull that out again and mechanically modify this housing. But I will install it just so that it's out from underfoot and isn't going to get damaged. It's not in the best of shape as it is, and that's actually the best of 3 non-AC ones I've got. See, this is typically what happens to them, is that the rivets pull out and the whole thing gets loose. As well, this one is pretty rusty. I think that was one I got given to me as part of a collection of parts, and this was the one that was originally in my old C10. And it's completely coming apart. Had one of the shafts, or one of the whatever I don't know what you call it, levers is broken there as well. It's lost 3 rivets out of the 4, and obviously isn't going to work now. I could always drill it out and put some bolts that come all the way through, but I think I'll just use that one instead, which also is not perfect, but I think from the point of view of how things will look, for the most part it looks okay. And I'm not going to drop, you know, $100, $150 on a brand new one, or a repro, because that would just be silly. Anyways, I am going to move on to the next thing here, which is I'll put this in. For the most part, the underhood stuff is, or I mean the heater stuff is done. It's all in here. I never realized just how much of this heater box is actually visible. I thought it was mostly tucked up underneath, but now I realize that actually, for the most part, most of it is visible. So I might be pulling this out at some later date and painting the the steel. But it's not hard to take out. There's 3 bolts, and you'd be disconnecting one of these. Actually 2 of these cables, so it wouldn't be that big a deal. There's no electrical connections into that portion of it. So I'm just going to soldier along and move on to the next task, which is cleaning up my wiring harness. So that will be done, and I can actually maybe get to the point where I can start installing it and maybe running this thing. Well, Murphy does like a little laugh at anyone's expense, quite frankly. There's no way that fan motor is going to go in past that hood hinge. So guess what I'm going to have to take off just to get the fan motor in. Oh boy, not the best design, is it? Really, nobody thought about any kind of servicing when it comes to something like that. So I decided that if it's going to be really difficult to take that fan in and out, then I'm going to rattle can it so it doesn't look quite so bad as it did before. So just spraying it